Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Just hanging out, doing some interviews for my hobby podcast.
Cool. Can I
Want
input?
to? Sure. Any opinions on any of that? Feel
All
free.
of them.
Feel free to grab the one you want to talk about.
Let's see. The biggest problem I was talking about.
Yeah. Thank you. How was your hike?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting.
It's getting less hot. That's very nice.
Huh?
It's getting not as hot. It's
Yeah, it was just hot enough.
just hot enough.
Yeah, to where you feel the heat, but it's not like exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you come to the park often?
Mm-mm.
No.
This is my first time here.
Oh, first time.
I tried to go up there at the north entrance once, but
Oh.
it was a little too crowded and I couldn't park and
It's
I gave
hard up there for sure. Even
Yeah.
though it is hard down here too.
Mm.
Yeah.
up. Easier.
Easier.
Yeah, more options.
Yeah. How'd you like the hike? Which side did you get? Yeah.
So I went up this first main walk first, but it ended so quickly I thought. I didn't know you could go up past the no trespassing sign.
Oh.
I guess you can.
Yeah, you just keep
You go
going.
around.
You go, to the left, yeah.
Yeah, but I went this way and it was nice and I'll go that way next time. I'll be back.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's a good spot for this type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me explain what I'm doing. Want your headphones though?
Sure.
Okay, great. Checkity check.
Check, check.
Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to practice this way of having conversations called street epistemology. Have you heard of it?
A little bit, like Steven Crowder, kind of.
Not exactly Steven Crowder. It's like change my mind. It's not so much change my mind. It's like, what do you believe and why, and are those good? Are those whys good reasons?
Time 1
Okay.
hour
Sorry.
15 minutes. Distance 2 point.
Nice.
There we go.
So it's more of a Socratic method type of way of having conversations where I keep my opinion out of it. You're not trying to convince me of anything.
Okay.
I'm just trying to help get clarity on what we're talking about.
Okay.
And it's more of a collaboration where we're trying to figure out together if whatever we're thinking about is true and if we have good reasons for it.
Okay.
Yes, and you picked this topic. What's the biggest problem no one is talking about? And what are some potential answers to this question that we could talk about?
I would say communism.
Communism. Gotcha. And did I get your first name? Sorry.
Andrea.
Andrea. Gotcha.
And what's yours?
My name is Reed.
Reed. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so communism is one of the biggest problems no one is talking about. Great. I'll put that as an answer. That is the answer to talk about. All right, great.
That's all I got.
That's all I got. Sweet. We can talk about that. And what do you mean by that?
Just the whole implementation of it into society on every level, in every dynamic, in every thought, in every certain lane of marketing, in every. It's all over the place. It's mixed in, but there's two sides. There's the communist, and then there's the anti-communist, the capitalists. So I just feel like there's one line right down the middle, and you're either on one side or the other side, and if you're not on one side, you're on the communist side.
Gotcha.
Or you just don't know, and then that's okay. It's not okay, but I give you a pass.
Cool. And for people who don't know or just want more clarity, what do you mean by communism?
I mean just the subtle way that things are being implemented into our educational system, into the court system, how we have no control, but we're led to think that we have a voice, but we don't. So the election fraud, that's the biggest one that I can think of right now. It's getting harder and harder to make it, I feel like, for people, like to
Less
keep your
opportunity?
rights. Yeah. I mean, it's such a broad subject. I don't know exactly where to pinpoint. Especially in California, the way that they're just increasing taxes over and over and over, and it's so expensive that so many people have just left. Or they don't even want to buy any real estate here, and everybody just wants to rent. They don't understand the value of real things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of I'm hearing is like there's just some corruption potentially, or there's some type of phenomenon which is causing bad things to happen in society, and we're labeling that right now communism. That's the broad label for it. Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's the absence of morals and the absence of ethics in business, the absence of accountability, the absence of finding your true self. So just valuing silence, or valuing differences in people, or valuing and respecting somebody's belief or non-belief in God. I just think that people are going a million miles a minute and nobody wants to slow down.
All right, so yeah, I'm still wondering about what we mean by communism a little bit. What is the biggest problem within this communism that we can talk about, potentially? Maybe something more specific.
More specific. Just the fact that nobody really understands it. Do you have any opinion on it?
Yeah, when I hear communism, I hear like an economic or like a very broad system of like, not valuing private property, or something related to the means of production being not, the state owning the means of production, that type of thing. Or is it something different in your mind?
Yes, and it's something different in my mind though. I just think that it's subtly being pushed onto us for that bigger purpose, and people just don't see it. So I'm trying to think of a good example. Really, the election. I mean, the election was totally a mess. And you have all these people that say that they voted for Trump, and then you have a lot of people that say they didn't vote for Biden and they didn't want Biden in there, and then you have this whole scam in multiple states, and it's just the fact that they're not looking into it. When there's so many facts proving that there was cheating, the Dominion machines and all that. So that's the biggest example that I can think of, but it's more of a broad thing that I'm thinking, because I feel like it's such a big change in the way that people live that it's got to come in at every angle. So it's coming in through the schools. Came in big with COVID, the masks, and just saying that we couldn't go outside, and saying that we weren't allowed to sing during Christmas, and saying that we couldn't get together with our families over the holidays, taking away our rights, basically. So that's the biggest issue.
The biggest issue is the taking away of rights.
Yeah.
That we have. For example, the freedom for association, the freedom of speech, stuff. What are the rights? I don't want to assume. What do you mean by that? What rights are at risk?
Freedom of speech, the practicing religion, freedom to practice religion.
Freedom of religion.
Yeah, right to bear arms. They want to take away guns. The right to free and fair elections.
Free and fair elections.
The right to our ability to work. You're taking away people's jobs. People couldn't work for months on months on months.
Right to work.
Yeah. So now a lot of people are just, they might have lost their job. They might have, personally, I didn't lose my job, but I got close to losing the passion for my career. because it was such a big shift in the outside environment that it made things go a little haywire for me in my head. So just a lot of, losing of our rights at one time. I feel like there was a major push in the communist direction.
Yeah, we're labeling these threats to these rights as communism. That's the phenomenon. We're labeling this threat to all these rights. That's the biggest problem. Oh dear. Anyway, that's the biggest problem no one is talking about. How confident are you about this? Say on a scale from all the way to the right, black is absolutely yes, or in the middle, not sure, or all the way to the left, white is absolutely no. This is not the biggest problem no one is talking about?
It's the biggest problem. Absolutely.
Okay. You can move that all the way to the right then, or wherever you think is best. It is the biggest problem?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's every problem. It's the reason people don't get along. It's the reason people don't listen to each other. It's the reason people hate. So.
Okay. And want to keep talking about that? I can get your reasons about it.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the biggest reason for being at that level of confidence about this?
Because I've seen it. I've dealt with it when I didn't even know that I was dealing with it, and then I dealt with it when I start to understand it a little bit more. But going from a certain point in our economy where things were not so good, and then going from 2016 until 2020, things completely, they changed. They totally opened up. I feel like America had a lot of hope, and things were moving, the economy was moving again, but then there was just all this hate going towards anybody who wore a red t-shirt or a red hat or said they were conservative or said that they voted for Donald Trump, anything like that. Or if they just, if they weren't hated, they just couldn't talk about it. They were shamed, at least. And it was in everything. I mean, it was, if you dressed a certain way, listened to a certain type of music, if you went to certain places, it was just in everything. And this whole culture of hating an American, basically.
Okay. What I'm hearing you say is, over the past maybe 5 or 6 years, there's been a cultural change in America where people are starting to criticize America itself? Or is that what I'm hearing?
Americans.
Yeah. Like Americans are being vilified, or some of them.
Some of them, yeah. If they didn't go with this whole agenda of the left.
Intolerance from the left increased? That's the reason?
Yeah.
Intolerance from the left increased.
I wouldn't say everybody on the left, but from the top of the left. So they projected this whole idea that people who thought a certain way or acted a certain way or voted for a certain people or a certain person, Donald Trump, they were bad people. They were racist people. They were stupid people. They were this or that, and it was all bad. When none of that was true. I mean, there's bad people on both sides, and there's good people on both sides. But it was one side pinned against the other side. So I'm not necessarily saying everybody on one side or the other is good or bad, because I think there's great people on both sides. But it's this division that's come into the parties, and it's neither one nor the other. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's the communist. So it's like, and it might not be quote unquote a communist, but it's leading towards a communist culture to where there's no tolerance for anything that's different. There's no individualism. It's all community, community thought. And I love community co-progression, but everybody's got to be an individual. So it's not equality, it's equity. But, you know, if you don't work for this water bottle and I worked for the water bottle, well then, you know, I get the water bottle. So it's just, it's one or the other, and people can't expect to get a return on something when they haven't put in what they need to put in. And so there's just this sense of entitlement, and then it just creates this division in the population.
Yeah, division. Like, what I'm hearing say is elite people from the left are causing division. Is that fair, or what's the better way to phrase that?
Mostly them.
You said something left from the top. What do you mean by that?
I think it's people that hold the most influence. So
influential people from the left are causing intolerance?
Yeah, and the right.
Okay.
It's both sides.
Polarization is increasing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the cause of the polarization is coming mostly from which side?
I think it's coming mostly from the left. But it's just this whole idea of no tolerance for one side or the other. And I had it for a little while where I didn't want to work with anybody that said they were different than me, because I was so sick of it. And I didn't want to be around anybody that was that way. And I'm not that way anymore. I'm more willing to, you know, not just think in one way. I'm very open-minded, but I was so open-minded for so long, and that I didn't know who I was. So I would believe things that I heard from other people, or that I saw on TV, or that I read. And I thought that I started to go back to those and just trust those, everything opened up for me. So I think that people have forgotten how to trust themselves and how to trust the core values of their country. And in that, they don't know who they are, and they don't know what they stand for. So they stand for all these things that are thrown at them through the pop culture.
Gotcha. Yeah, you've seen a bunch of bad values getting out there, and you return to your own values, and that's made your life better?
Yeah, it did. Almost right away. You know, it's been a long road, and you have to stick to those values, and it's hard sometimes. I mean, it just gets lonely. It's not really hard, but there's no true happiness in codependence. And I feel like this, you know, the communism thought idea, the communist culture, is people depending on each other for things.
A culture of dependence?
Yeah.
Culture of dependence.
And so if you can't create things on your own and think of things on your own and be on your own, then you never really know what makes you truly happy. And that's just kind of like an epidemic that's in our culture, and I was right at the heart of it. I mean, cute dog. And so many people are, and they don't even know it, or they're just complacent and they're happy, and they think they're happy, or maybe they're truly happy, and that's just what they want to be, is codependent. But that can't last forever, you know? I feel like when you're younger, it's easier to find codependent happiness, but maybe as you grow older, you know, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, because you were always with another person or other people, and then you just have this misery and regret, and it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Sadness and agony, sadness, it projects onto your family, your friends, the people around you. So it's just a sad way to progress in life.
Gotcha. All right. Now the next stage is to talk about how much we should weight these reasons, or we could brainstorm potential reasons against this. I want to check in and see if you want to keep going.
We could go for a little bit longer, yeah. I feel like now my wheels are spinning a little bit.
Okay, great.
At first, I was kind of all over the place.
That's cool. What I'm hearing is like 3 main reasons to why the biggest problem no one is talking about is communism, is that there's a decrease in tolerance, there's an increase in polarization, and an increase in culture of dependence.
Mm-hmm.
Any other main reasons to put on here?
No, I think that's good.
Those are good ones?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, lack of clarity on what communism means. Just the threats to these are of like the general American rights, like freedom of speech, religion, the right to bear arms, free and fair elections, and right to work, and the general culture of like individualism and equality, not equity and not collectivism. That stuff is under threat from some ideology we're right now labeling communism. And these are our reasons to think that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
Are these good reasons to think that's the case? What do you think?
I think the best reason is the increase in the culture of dependence.
That's the best reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I've been noticing that a lot lately. I kind of went through stages of noticing different things at different times in my evolution of this thought. But the decrease in tolerance was the first one. And I think that's getting better slowly. So that's good. But the increase in a culture of dependence is huge. I mean, people gotta have something all the time. They have to have a Starbucks. They have to have Netflix. They have to have Hulu. They have to have music on. They have to have something to eat. They have to have, it's just something all the time.
Okay. How does that relate to one of these reasons?
The increase in a culture of dependence.
Oh, dependence.
Yeah. So it's not just on other people, but it's on things and
okay.
food and entertainment.
Okay. And what is the opposite of a culture of dependence? Or
Maybe a culture of independence.
yeah, what does that look like?
Just a lot less greedy. A lot less, and I think people are greedy without even knowing it. Like not in an extreme way, but just in a way of they're just excessive with things, with spending, with consumption. So yeah, I guess a culture of independence would just be a lot more, people would buy less stuff they don't need, and they would say less that they don't need to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a little bit more, society would probably be a little bit more efficient.
Efficient?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
More efficiency, less facade. Less of a facade
Okay.
in people's presentation.
And what's the problem with dependence, just to recap and get clarity again?
It's taking away people's ability to find God.
Okay. Any other downsides to dependence?
Yeah, I think it creates bad situations where they end up married and maybe divorcing, or married and, you know, having children and divorcing and then ruining that child's life. Hopefully the child's okay later in their life, but it just creates this whole snowball of negative action and reaction, and it's people can be saved from it, but some people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So if people weren't as dependent and didn't get into relationships because they thought they had to be in one and they were too afraid to be alone, have children because they think they're supposed to have them, a lot of bad people would turn good. And a lot of bad people, you know, maybe they might not turn good, and that's great because they wouldn't reproduce. So I think that this whole codependence, and then people get together, and maybe it's two codependent people, so there's no control, and there might not be any real growth, and it's just two people wasting time, and then they create something together, and a lot of the times they create chaos, and it goes out into the world, and you know, it's either bad or it ends up being good after a little bit of bad. But
to recap, the problems with dependence is it first and foremost takes away the ability to find God, and it leads to a lack of control, a lack of growth, and an increase in chaos. That's fair. Okay.
yeah.
And that's the biggest reason we're saying right now for why communism is the biggest problem.
Yeah, like I said, this one at the beginning of 2016, that was my biggest one. And then I would say this one was in the middle, and this is where I'm at right now.
Okay. I have a fun way to measure the size of, or the weight of a reason. So I have like 5 blocks in that little blue box there. We can put a color for this reason. Let's pick a color for that reason, whatever you want.
We could do yellow.
All right, yellow for that reason. We have up to 5 blocks in weight for that reason. The bigger the weight, the stronger the reason, the better the reason. So how many of 5 in terms of the weight of this reason is this reason?
3.
It's just a 3 right now?
Yeah.
But it is the biggest reason?
Yeah, that I can think of at the moment.
Okay.
Because I think a little bit of cohabitance is necessary, and it's okay, but people just get too dependent on other things and other people.
Okay, we can simulate the weight in our argument by putting 3 yellow blocks on the right side.
Okay.
If you want, it's fun. There we go. So now we're trying to kind of proportion our confidence to the evidence. So like you're all the way to the right now. What's causing you to be all the way to the right, as in like all the way down here?
Okay.
So I'm like, now we're trying to figure out, and how much would these weigh each? What colors would you give those?
I would give polarization 2.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
3?
Yeah, because I've become quite polarized.
I'm going to do red for that.
Okay. And then decrease in tolerance. I'll do another 3.
Okay.
Green.
All right, now we're starting to match your confidence level.
So, I guess we could put that, you know, the lack of discussion. No, I don't want to say that. There's something that I'm missing there. I don't know, I'm stuck.
You're wondering about a potential other reason to think this is true?
Yeah.
What comes to mind about it?
No accountability. People aren't able to hold themselves accountable for things, and they don't take responsibility. Lack of responsibility. Personal responsibility.
A decrease in responsibility?
Yeah, a decrease in personal responsibility.
A decrease in personal responsibility.
Yeah, and ethical a decrease in education and ethics.
Okay, a decrease in ethics in general?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What color should we give this one?
White.
White.
Yeah, and we could give that 3 as well.
3. Decrease in ethics. That's the best way to phrase. Ethics is the word to use for that.
Ethical,
Morals, virtue, ethics, morals, values. That's fine. Decrease in ethics.
yeah, I think that's a good one for kind of capturing every part of society.
Okay. All right. Recheck in. Next up in the way of having conversations is to figure out how we're weighing these.
Mm-hmm.
What method we're using to weigh these, and is that a good method for giving that reason that amount of weight? That's where we could go next. But
Okay.
first up, how much weight for this?
Let's do 3.
3 again.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you determine the weight of these reasons?
I just kind of thought of how big of a problem I've seen it be personally, and I feel like they're all pretty equal.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 because they're all really big problems, but there are good people, and there are people that have struggled with each one of the problems, possibly on both sides of it, and they are the reason for the problems being solved because they worked through it, and maybe they made the wrong choice, but they came back and they utilized their ability to take personal responsibility, and they're helping to fix things. So, but that goes down to probably their core values and their morals and their trust in a God, or just their trust in themselves. It doesn't have to be God, but that right there, that trust that people have in themselves in order to turn around out of all the negativity is what's being attacked with all of these things because of communism. So that once people lose that ability to know how to trust themselves and their instincts, sometimes it's too late and they can't come back, and then they're gone, and then they have no base of morals to go off of. They have no understanding of themselves or of a God or of religion or of how valuable it can be, because all they've listened to is negative thoughts on it, possibly, and then say they procreate, and then they just create another person who thinks like that. Maybe that person will be saved down the road, maybe not. And then it just makes this whole population of people that don't have any of these core values that America was founded in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotcha. So, good stuff there, but I'm still wondering about what I'm hearing you say is the way you weighted these reasons is you kind of just thought about the scale of each problem,
Mm-hmm.
and like in terms of like the scale of societal problems, each of these are like in the middle.
Yeah.
They're not nothing, but they're not everything. They're each in the middle in terms of the scale of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And let me try to get clarity.
They're all pretty big problems.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all there. Just when I think one's gone away, it pops up again. But it's because I've gotten into this one. Like, I've just kind of polarized myself. And I don't want to do that. It's just a natural defense mechanism that my my body does. I just pull away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me try to map out an argument for this reason, just
Okay.
to get really clear. We're saying the biggest problem no one is talking about is communism, and the reason for that is because there's a decrease in ethics. So the premises in here is like the United States population is decreasing in ethics, and a decrease in ethics is a problem.
It doesn't drive business. When you don't have ethics in business, business doesn't thrive.
Yeah.
For everyone. It thrives maybe for the unethical group that are forcing it to thrive for them.
And a third premise in there is that the primary reason for the decrease in ethics is because of this ideology of communism. Is that part of the argument?
I think it comes from the culture of it, the actions of it, the absence of morals, the lack of ability to take personal responsibility. So it's the problem of communism is creating the decrease in ethics.
Okay.
Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Communism, when implemented, decreases ethics. That's part of the claim?
Yes.
How so? How does that work?
Because people have they lose their, how am I going to say this? They don't know how to trust themselves. They just listen to what other people are telling them to do. And they don't think about whether it's right or wrong. And they just do it because somebody told them to do it. And maybe they don't think about not whether it's right or wrong, but do they really want to do it? Why are they doing it? They're just doing it because they're supposed to do it. So in that blind direction that they're going, or in that blind instruction that they're taking without any of their own thought, they might get to a point in the road where they have to make a decision that's a little bit of an ethical dilemma, and they make the wrong decision because they don't know how to think. They don't have critical thinking skills anymore. So, I mean, ethics aren't always black and white. You don't always, know exactly what to do. Sometimes you make a choice and it was a hard choice to make, and maybe it weighs you down a little bit, but then you think about it later and you're like, oh, I'm really glad I made that decision because that was actually the ethical thing to do. And I didn't even know why I made that choice, but I did, and I'm so glad I did. Because you have this habit of critical thinking skills and trusting your instincts, and you go with that. So when this culture of communism is pushed on you, where people have forgotten how to critically think, and they have forgotten what God is, and they've forgotten how to connect with themselves, and they've forgotten how to take responsibility when they're wrong, and they've forgotten how to work hard for everything that they have, and they've forgotten how to be an individual, dilemmas when they're presented, unless somebody's telling them what to do.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is this culture of communism denigrates critical thinking and promotes a kind of blind obedience. Is that fair?
Yeah, right on the dot.
Okay. Why is that true?
Because that's how humans, that's how we are. That's how, if something is trained into people long enough, and then all of a sudden things shut down and people go into a depression, they have no hope, and then they really forget how to think, and then they're really just trying to survive. So, if you're being told how to think and what to think for a certain period of time, and it's always around you, and pop culture is pulling you in that direction also, then eventually that's just how you are. You're a product of your environment.
Yeah, if someone wanted to check the accuracy of this claim that a culture of communism promotes blind obedience, how would they go about checking the accuracy of that?
It would take them a while. They just have to observe. I mean, there's nothing that I can pinpoint to exactly that says this proves it right here. But they have to do research. I mean, they have to read the Communist Manifesto. They have to look at, go to the Museum of Tolerance, go to the Holocaust survivor exhibits that we have, and research about how life was for the Jewish people before the Holocaust and how it started. And, look at pop culture and look at the intolerance that's happening and look at the people that are speaking out now that, might have leaned a little bit more to the left previously, but then they're starting to get hit with it. And they're like, no, I don't think so. This isn't what I want to say. This isn't what I want to do. So there's a lot of people that are realizing it now too, and that's good. That's great. But that's why I think this one is, maybe we're at 2 with this one. We'll go 2.
2 with that one?
Yeah.
I'll take that one.
There you go. So it's just, there's no one thing, and that's the scary thing, is there's no one way to prove it.
There's no one way. There's no, finding a passage in the Communist Manifesto where they say, in communism, we recommend you blindly obey whatever we say.
Yeah. I mean, there might be. I don't know it word for word. I've only kind of read it once. But it's short. People could read it, but there's just not, the proof is in the pudding. So it's not like one book that you can read and all of a sudden you believe everything that you've ever, wanted to believe. It takes time. But once people have the ability to be tolerant and listen to one another and start to take personal responsibility and grow, all these things start to come together, and then they might see it. So it takes time, and it takes tolerance, and it takes personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd love to potentially talk about, if you have time, a way to test the accuracy of potentially one or more of the premises that are in these reasons, or we could wrap it up and talk about some other time, or whatever you want to do.
Okay, repeat the question. We could be quick.
Yeah, each of these reasons potentially has one or more, or at least 2 premises, like the communism causes a decrease in personal responsibility is a premise within this reason, and the decrease in personal responsibility is a problem. That's one. What is a premise that I'd like to talk about? We could go with that. How does personal responsibility relate to communism? What does communism have to say about personal responsibility? What's a good evidence for that?
I just think that people don't, they don't know how to take responsibility for their own happiness, mostly. And that could be related to the increase in the culture of dependence. But it's in every part of life. It's in business that people don't have personal responsibility. They blame things on one another or on their client or on circumstance when it was really just their fault. But what was the question?
How do we know communism has anything to say about personal responsibility, or how do we know communism, this ideology, relates to a decrease in personal responsibility in U.S. culture?
Yeah.
If that even is true. That
It's true.
That there's a decrease in personal responsibility in the culture.
I think there is, and it's not everybody, but there definitely is.
Yeah, I want to talk about that premise. It is the case that there is a decrease in personal responsibility in the United States in the past 6 years, 10 years?
10 years.
We'll say 10 years.
10, 15.
What's the best evidence of that?
I was going to say something, but I won't say it.
Well...
I won't say that.
All right.
The best evidence of the decrease in personal responsibility is the intolerance, the hate, the whole mindset of like the woke culture.
Mm-hmm.
That whole movement, if that's what you want to call it, and health. People's health is not good. And that right there is the core of personal responsibility, is your health. If you don't know how to take responsibility for what you're eating and what you're doing and how much time you're spending doing certain things in order to make your mind and your body healthy, then you don't know how to take personal responsibility for yourself. And the lack of money that some people have, the economics.
A lot of the reason people are unhealthy is due to the lack of personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
There's been an increase in people being unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
like before COVID, even before that. So that's evidence of a decrease in personal responsibility through that evidence of health.
I think that's the biggest one. Yeah, that's
Biggest
the
one.
best. That's got to be the best example, because the rest is really just my own speculation. But health is it's evidence. Like that is, because I struggled with it for so long. I was trying all these shortcuts in order to lose weight, when what I really need to do is run my butt up Runyon Canyon. Like that, you can't just like not eat and lose weight. I mean, you can, but you're going to look frail.
Mm-hmm.
So people try to take these shortcuts, or they just ignore it, and then there goes their independence, because then they're not happy and they need other things to make them happy. So it's all mingled together to create the communism.
Yeah. Cool.
I do have to wrap it up, though.
We are.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so that was really great. I think I understand where you're coming from.
Thank you.
I understand your reasoning. And if you see me again, I'd love to unpack more of the premises here and the reasoning here. This is really great.
Yeah. How do I follow you?
I have a YouTube channel and
Cool.
social media. I'll post a clip later tonight of our conversation, if that's cool, on my
Of
second
course.
YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And if you see me again, feel free to stop by. I like to give one of these little puzzle pieces, squishy puzzle pieces to people to remember the conversation. You can take one color,
Aw.
and if you see me again, you can get another color, and we can build out the whole set.
Okay. Are you just always around here?
I try to be here on Sundays. I have a meetup. You can check the meetup where I'll be when.
Okay.
Yeah. So which color would you like?
I'm going to take blue.
All right. Cool.
Cool.
Great. I've got straight Epistemology stickers and everything.
Yeah, I'll take a sticker.
Sweet.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you, Reed.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah. Perfect way to end my run.
Nice.
Have a good day.
You too.